It's a rainy day, you're stuck at home. What can you do? As photographers, sometimes we get frustrated because of inclement weather. You're like, oh, I really want to go out. Well, take some photos at your home. Go outside in the backyard if you've got a backyard. We don't have much of a backyard here where we live, but we've just got a few plants on the side of our house here. And take a look at this. Now, look right in the center there. There's some little succulents there. Watch now as I zoom in. Now look at that. Wouldn't that make a great photo? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. Now before we jump in and start taking photos, I've had a few comments from people saying, well, you're showing us how to do basic photography, beginner photography, but you're using a Nikon D500, which isn't really a beginner camera. So what camera are we using today? I'm going to put away my Nikon D500. What have we got here? A Nikon D90. This camera came out in 2008, and the first lens we're going to use with it is a little nifty 50, a 50mm f1.8 lens that you can pick up for around $100 secondhand. This camera only cost me $350, so for around $450 I can take some really nice photos. So I'll put the Nikon D500 down. We're just going to take a couple of photos with the 50mm, then we're going to shut the camera off, and then we're going to put the Nikon 18 to 140mm because that's also a kit lens. So let's see what we can have and how we're going to compose this image. As you can see, my camera here is about shoulder height, but the plants are only waist high. Now there's a reason why I want to do this. I don't want to shoot head on because that's not going to give me the depth. So I've raised my camera up a bit to shoot downwards. Now with the 50mm, I'm actually going to be taking a bit more than I want, but when I get into Lightroom, we're going to crop it down. This is only a 12 megapixel camera, but it's raining, so I don't want to go out in the rain, so I'm just inside my veranda here. What settings are we going to use on D90? Base ISO for the D90 is ISO 200, so that's what we're going to use. We're in aperture priority. We're in auto white balance. You might think that it's raining, you know, the photo's going to be flat. Well, you're actually quite wrong, because when you're photographing things like this, where they're a bit in the sun normally, you can get a lot of like very bright areas, a bit of dark areas. So photographing in inclement weather like this is perfect because we haven't got any harsh shadows at all. This is why I've decided to do this video this afternoon, because it's raining. You can probably just hear the pitter patter of the rain on the roof. So we're in aperture priority. And what are our settings? Well, the little nifty 50 can go down to f1.8. So let's go down to f1.8. We're around 1.5 meters from the plant. On the D500, I've got back button focusing, but on this camera here, back button focusing is really problematic. So I'm just using the shutter button to focus and to take the image. But what I've done is I've set it for a 2-second time and delay. We'll take it off live view. I've already focused on one of the biggest succulents. And we'll take a photo now. Wow, that just looks so nice. Look at this, this is just a JPEG. But what I've done is I've gone into, because I'm shooting JPEG and RAW, what I'm seeing here is better than just a flat JPEG. Now, if you shoot in JPEG, and there's nothing wrong with taking photos in JPEG, on the Nikons, we have picture profiles. So you can go in there and you don't have just to select JPEG normal. I've selected JPEG landscape and I've increased the sharpness a bit. You could increase the saturation, customize these profiles to your liking. You could have landscape, vivid, portrait. So it doesn't matter what scene you're photographing, you could get a proper profile for the type of photo that you're photographing. We'll just double check our image here. I just want to make sure that I haven't blown the highlights. Wow, look at that histogram. It is a mountain. And at f1.8, at this distance, I've got nearly front to back on these succulents. But I want to make sure that all the succulents are in focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase it to f2.8. Although the nifty 50mm f1.8 Nikon lens is quite good, it's a bit soft at f1.8 and your depth of field is very narrow. It's best to actually go to f2.2 or preferably f2.8. You'll still have a very shallow depth of field, especially if you're doing portraits and all that. So you could think about the succulents as a portrait image. We don't want much depth of field. But have you noticed that we've got paling fence behind it? Now some people would say like, oh, it's a distraction. Well, to me, today, it's not. I've photographed here before and it has been a distraction. And when I didn't want the fence, all I've done is just grab the piece of cardboard, put the cardboard behind the succulents. But today I want that because the paling fence is going to frame my image. We're at f2.8. We're just going to focus. That's it. Take another shot. Wow, that is so nice. What I can see is I'm just going to reframe the camera a little bit because I've moved it a bit. Now this is much better. Because I'm tilting down, I've got the palings sort of wedging down and it just gives it a different feel. So we'll take another photo and this will be our last photo with this camera. Sorry, with this lens. Beautiful. That looks really nice. But I'm going to have to do some cropping here. We're going to turn the camera off and I'm going to put the 18 to 140mm. Now look at this. This is how small the little nifty 50 is. Now there's two versions of the 50mm 1.8. This is the cheap version and you can tell the cheap version by all the numbers here. This is the cheaper one. They're both just as sharp. We'll put this away and we'll put the 18 to 140mm lens on. So here's our 18 to 140. Let's whack it on. Now when you're changing lenses like this, really you shouldn't leave the lens like that. But there's no wind about, so there's very little chance of any dust coming in. One thing you have to make sure is you turn the camera off before you change lenses. We get back to live view. Now we're actually going to focus right in. So we're not going to need any cropping at all. I'm trying to get it as tight as possible. I'm just going to have to raise it just a little bit. There. Now I'm going to move it slightly back. Now this can't go down to f1.8 or even f2.8 like the nifty 50. So what are we on? At this focal length, which is just before 70 mils, our minimum aperture is f5. That's still good. And we're shooting at 0.25 of a second. So I've got back button focus here, so I'll put, oh, wrong. Thinking so much about my D500. So let's focus. That's it. And we'll take a shot. Look at that. Now, we'll put back on live view. I'm just looking to the framing. I'm just going to move it just a little bit to the side here. We'll focus one more. Oh, that just looks really nice. So that's it. I don't need any more photos. I've got what I want. Let's take a look at some of the photos that I took now, both the JPEG and the RAW edited in Adobe Lightroom. So you can see, even on a rainy day, there's no need for gloom and doom, no need to be frustrated and say, oh, you know, I've missed out on an opportunity, I really want to go out to this place to photograph sunset or whatever. Just look around your backyard. We don't have much, but I found something very interesting to photograph. I'm sure wherever you are, there's something that is very interesting to photograph in this sort of weather. Now, if you found value in this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay safe, enjoy your photography, no matter what photography you do, and I'll see you next time.